We better not be able to.
Yeah, I got it working.
Like a Google Hangout, you can see each other and all those kind of things.
Yeah, you can upload stuff and stuff.
We did one last night, 7 o'clock.
I saw it. Or no, I saw the
No, we did,
Facebook Live.
yeah, we did the Facebook Live and then.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, it is 6 o'clock and I would like to call this meeting on January 16th to order. You could all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we'll have a roll call by Mrs. Reinhardt.
Mrs. McKay?
Here.
Mr. Imes?
Here.
Mrs. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. McInnes?
Here.
Mr. McCreary?
Here.
All right, and we will start off with the superintendent's report from Dr. Irusi.
Thank you. I just want to kind of update the board and obviously the community through the live stream just about where we're at in our response to the coronavirus. And let me say things have really been interesting over the last week or so, and some of the information and the things that we're doing and having these conversations to try to prepare literally have changed on an hourly basis. And so we're really trying to make sure that the message that we get to our community is we are responding to the most up-to-date information that we possibly can, but we need to be prepared that a lot of the things we have in place could change at any moment in time. And so we spend a lot of time making sure that we have all the information. We watch the governor's press conference every day and make sure we're aware of the things that are going on. So originally last week when this first really, I think it was last Wednesday that when the governor held a press conference and started to mandate, some things that we were responsible for. One of the things that he said was we need to start looking at this in 30-day increments. And so we started planning accordingly. So, the idea that we canceled field trips, professional development, all those meetings and things like that. So if from that date would have taken us to April 13th. So regardless of where we're at right now and when and if and whatever happens with school, those things that we put in place in relation to them are still in place until April 13th. So any of the events that we had canceled and field trips and things like that, regardless of whether or not we're in school, are still canceled. So that brings us up to that. So, and obviously then on Friday was, or Thursday then, I think the first press conference was on Wednesday, and we had made some plans. And we were waiting actually to release some of those things until the press conference, and then that's the date on Thursday when he announced the school closure. And so a lot of those things kind of went out the window in relation to that, and we had to kind of put that message together again. And so the governor did again, close schools effective actually today at the end of the school day, but we felt like that we needed.
Ooh, that's good.
Oh, we have it's 6 o'clock, the lights go off, so sorry about that. 6:02, I guess, it would be the lights go off. And we felt that it was important for us to use a day that was already scheduled for our staff to do some planning in relation to the governor's recommendation, although he did misspeak a little bit, but he soon corrected himself about the extended spring break, which is not exactly an extended spring break, but it's actually just a different, students aren't at home, but we're still expected to deliver education to our students. And so we spent all day today with our staff really putting together a plan. The teaching and learning department, special services all spent 2 or 3 days last week and through the weekend, at least allowing our teachers to have some structure and some guidance in how to do that. And so our teachers spent that day today. But let me back up to last Friday. Friday would have been the last day of school for our students. And I think our staff did a really good job of having conversations with our students about how this long, time off would affect them. So we gathered information on students that might have, some concerns about their well-being during that time off, and I think we were able to connect them with some services that are out there. So we did get a chance to spend some time with our students on Friday before they left. obviously a lot of them had, concerns, and a lot of them surprisingly were not happy about the idea that they were going to be off school for a while. You would think that they would enjoy that, but many of them weren't. And so, again, as far as the students are concerned, a couple things in relation to them. I'll talk about first and foremost, we were concerned about food and how our kids would continue to receive the meals that they get every day here from our school system. And again, credit our transportation department, Jen Fosna and Winnie Brewer, our food service department. I don't know if they slept during that time at all, but they came up with a plan to deliver meals. And again, their information is changing, so they've had to adjust that plan along the way. And then, Chris has done a real good job of making sure that that stuff is updated too on our website and all those kinds of things so that our community knows what those pickup and drop off times look like. And so the latest and greatest stuff is on our website. It's been sent via text and phone messages on a daily basis, directing people to go. So food service, I think, was taken care of. I feel confident that our kids will have access to food, and we are doing that through spring break. So we're not just doing it next week and then ending the week after, which was spring break. So for the next 3 weeks, our kids will have access to meals every day. And then the other part of that, obviously, was kind of what I just talked about in relation to delivering education to our students. And so I think it's very important, and we make very clear that our staff spent a lot of time today, and obviously they spent a lot of time over the weekend looking at what their expectations would be for the students in delivering that education. And we know we have an equity situation here in Marion. So what we provide, whether it's paper and pencil or online, is not where it stops. It's not so much how we deliver, but we know that our families struggle. We've had emails from students that said, I know I'm supposed to be turning in lessons, can I do them at night because I have to watch my siblings because there's nobody home during the day. So, all those things we have to take into account in our community when we're thinking about this process and how we deliver education. So, our staff did a really good job of putting together a good plan. But the goal is that we are encouraging our students and our families to be engaged in that, but we also understand that there's an equity situation, and there's going to be those students who are really going to struggle with that. And so the idea is not so much about what we're going to do if and when students don't do it or how they don't do it or anything like that. Right now, our major concern is giving access to the education to as many students as possible. And so that's kind of where we're at in relation to our students. Then we also have 700 plus employees here in the Marion City School District. And so we've had lots of conversations about, those employees and making sure, number one, that they're safe. And so that they're, we're following the guidelines today. The CDC and Governor DeWine, at one point it was mass gatherings were considered to be 100. That's been reduced now down to 50. And so even today, we've had to make some adjustments into what we're doing with our employees. So first and foremost is, I've heard from a lot of employees, and we have hourly employees who are typically here with the students. So for example, we have one-on-one aides and classroom aides that, their job is to work with students in the classroom, and when the students are here, typically they don't get paid. And so there's a lot of concerns over, how long this would be extended. And so our recommendation has been that we are going to continue payroll basically as if the students were here. Now obviously, the week of spring break is a little bit different. We had planned for spring break, we knew it was coming, those kinds of things, but we've assured all of our employees that we're going to try the best we can to continue to do payroll as business as usual in that aspect. So that's the financial part of that. We do know we will follow both of our contracts. We have negotiated agreements with our classified staff as well as our certified staff. And let me say that both of our associations, we met as an administrative team with both of them last Thursday. And they have just been outstanding in relation to how can they help the district and how can they help the kids. And we know that there's some employees that may not have been covered under the contract, under the classified staff, but they've sat down and said, we just want to make sure we take care of everybody. So just to kind of commend them for their cooperation and what they've done within the district has been outstanding. In relation to our trying to limit, and the governor's advice from the beginning was, we need to consider what is an essential part of our business, and if it's not essential, we should not be doing it. And so when it comes to our employees, we're having discussions about that, and so we need to make sure that they're protected too in relation to the mass gatherings. And we have 50 people who work, out of our office here just from Marion City Schools. And so just today, we announced to our staff that we would be dividing the central office staff into basically two groups. One group that would work in the morning, the other group would work in the afternoon. We let our departments get together and determine, what was in the best interest of them. If they had kids that they had, problem with childcare, or they had to care for the elderly, all those discussions took place before we made a determination of who was working when. But the central office will be open from 7:30 to 4, but only half of our staff will be here at any point in time. So the office will be manned. We'll be able to take phone calls. We'll be able to deal with situations on a regular basis, but our folks will still have the opportunity. And when they're off, when I say off, there's still an expectation that all of our staff is working from home. Every one of them in the central office will have access to the technology when they are home to be able to do that. In relation to our buildings, all of our buildings will remain open. The time that they will remain open is from 8 to 12. And so if there's a need for somebody, if they forgot a medication or there's some resource that they need, we're encouraging our community to call first and make sure that they're aware of somebody that may come into the building to access whatever might be there. And finally, so all of this will take place right now from Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, the entire district will be shut down to further limit the amount of contact that people have, when they're in the office. So those are some of the things that we've done. I want to talk a little bit and just end with communication. We've tried to get out as much communication as possible. Communication to the board, communication to staff, communication to the community and different parts of the staff. So we're trying to release at least three means of communication every day. So we have an email update, a pop-up that goes on our website every day, and then we're also doing a one-call system which also delivers text messages to direct folks to our website. So we will at least have one update every day with those three different forms of communication. And again, we have an update to staff, we have an update to community, and I'll try to keep you as informed as I can. And you have access to all of those updates as well, both with staff and those
Yeah,
kinds
I'm
of
getting
things.
on.
I think that's about it in relation to what we're doing. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions in relation to that. For our community, we have set up also a frequently asked questions document that you can access on the website. And so, rather than continue to field the same kind of calls and answer those kinds of questions, that's been put together so that, as a resource for people to go to, that they can access. We also have an email address set up, and it's just info@mcspresidents.org. So when people have questions, we're gathering them. We did not gather any questions for tonight's meeting. Nobody emailed. We had some questions about the Facebook Live that we did last night. But we'll get the information. And a lot of these questions, I can tell you, we don't have a lot of answers to. And we know that our seniors, for example, are looking at the rest of their senior year and some of the things that are possibilities, and they're aware. And our hope is by the time that gets there, that maybe we'll have some options for them. But right now we know we have to follow the lead. And again, I'll give Governor DeWine a lot of credit for the leadership that's been in the state of Ohio, and we get constant updates, and we feel like we're we're aware of situations, and we're given an opportunity to implement what we have to implement, and they're not popular decisions. I know from the beginning we had to cancel some events early on that weren't popular, and but this is all about flattening the curve, and I understand that. I think that's our message, and we're going to do our part certainly to be able to do that. So.
All right.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I know that we've all been through similar kinds of things with the positions that we're in outside the district, but I want to applaud you and your staff for the amazing job that you're doing. And one of the main concerns I had when this all started was, how are those kids gonna get fed? But I was delighted to hear that, and that was one of the first things that you put together and got out there. I'm also pleased with the way that you're communicating regularly with the public, because I'm getting all those every day, and I've had some questions, and I've been able to refer them to those kind of sites, and it's been good. So congratulations, and thanks for all the work that you've been doing.
The work
Sent
is-
many messages to the staff about how impressed I am with all of our staff members, their cooperation and their work ethic, and what they've done to come together for this has really been impressive.
Mhm. Yes, we definitely appreciate all efforts from everyone. All right, we'll move on to the Assistant Superintendent's report.
So I just wanted to share a little about enrollment. So two things really. So because these are still considered school days, we have to, still consider enrollment. So what we're doing in terms of that with the Student Welcome Center downstairs is we're taking those by appointment only, and we're only asking that those people that are required to be part of that enrollment process attend that appointment. So all others would be asked to then wait outside, in a vehicle, if not necessary. Sometimes, we have lots of family members that come to those enrollment meetings. And so we're asking that those family members refrain from coming to that appointment. We're helping through the process as much as we can during that call, when they're scheduling the appointment. And then the student would be then given all of the online access or the hard copies that other students would be given for those courses or classes. Again, because they're school days, we can't wait until we come back to actually enroll students, because then they would be out of school for, an extended period of time. So, in terms of that, that's how we're kind of moving forward with those. We enrolled a student last week. We've had a couple additional students that came in today to enroll, so we have to kind of keep moving forward with that. The other question we've been getting has been about open enrollment, and are we gonna still move forward with that, and are we extending the deadline? So at this point, we're not extending the deadline, we're moving forward. That April 1st, we'll start collecting that information. When you came in today, there's that, I'm referring to it as the breezeway, that is not locked down. There is a drug collection box that's locked, that's with the Sheriff's Department. We can put a lock box that's like a post box right next to that, where if people want to drop off their open enrollment forms, they can drop them off there. It can be checked daily. Also, obviously, you can send your open enrollment form through the mail, which will also be checked daily. As those come in, we'll continue to stamp those, just like what the process has been as we've described it. The enrollment forms were never to be delivered to the buildings, and so that shouldn't be a problem with those buildings having the modified hours. If we feel like we need to make any changes to that, we certainly can do that, at a later time. But at this point, we feel like that April 1st start date, as it is, should be fine. All of the information is available online. All the forms are available online. And if there are questions, there is the phone number online as well to ask. So, that's our
All right.
enrollment update.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Lawson? All right, with that, we will move on to the treasurer's report. Treasurer Reinhardt asks for the approval for board minutes for February 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. McCurry?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnis?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Motion approved. Treasurer Reinhardt recommends the approval for February financial reports and the rates and amounts as set by the Marion County Budget Commission.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mr. McCurry?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Motion passed. Now is the time we would usually do the hearing of the public. If you do have questions, you can please submit those to info@ncspresident.org. With that, we'll move on to item 6, agenda confirmation. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
If not, I'll move to approve as printed.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. All right. Is there any old business to discuss? No? All right, we'll move on to new business. Superintendent Irucci recommends the approval of the reappointment of Miss Roxanne Summerlot to the Marion Technical Board, College Board of Trustees for the term of office beginning May 1st, 2020 to April 30th, 2023.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, motion carried. Superintendent Irucci recommends the adoption of the Marion City Schools calendar for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, motion carried. Superintendent recommends the approval of the following student for early graduation, end of second semester pending completion of semester 2 coursework, as she has met all other necessary requirements. Malachi Childers is the name of the student.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, motion carried. Dr. Irucci recommends the approval of 277 students to graduate from Harding High School on May 16th, 2020. This approval is subject to completion of final credits and graduation requirements.
So moved?
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes, motion carried. Move on to new business agreements and contracts. Dr. Irucci recommends the approval of the following 10 contracts. Memorandum between the University of Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and the Marion City Schools District to provide an online curriculum-based tobacco prevention cessation program, ASPIRE program, as presented, as well as memorandum between the Ohio Department of Education, Johns Hopkins University, and the Marion City Schools to create a mutual understanding regarding participation in the Ohio High School Redesign Collaborative.
So moved.
Well, we got more.
More?
As well as a contract between EdVision Plus and the Marion City Schools for hosting Operation Graduation 2.0 and EdVision Plus Design Lab. An agreement between the Metropolitan Educational Technology Association, META, and the Marion City Schools to provide basic conduit access to the internet as presented. And a service agreement between Metropolitan Educational Technologies Association, the Marion City Schools, to provide internet access, ISP service as presented. And a contract between Marzarno Resources and the Marion City Schools for providing a speaker for formative assessment and standards-based grading for May 27th, 2020 to May 29th, 2020. And a contract between the Marion District Management Group and Marion City Schools to provide professional development support software to all elementary schools for creation of school schedules. And a contract between Ohio Specialty Services and Marion City Schools for transportation services to the student's place of residence and to the Center of Autism and Dyslexia for the 2019-2020 school year. And agreement between Choose People LLC and Marion City Schools as presented. And finally, agreement between Power Schoolology and Marion City Schools as negotiated for online learning for the remainder of the school year and the following school year.
Move the approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion on any of those? Do you have anything to add, Dr. Irucci, on any of those contracts?
Unless you have any
No?
questions.
No, we're good. Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Motion carried. Next, new business consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed and removed from the consent agenda. The superintendent recommends approval of all consent agenda items. Employment is specifically conditioned on and subject to successful background checks, receipt and final administrative review of all application records, and receipt of all necessary documentations. Motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Motion carried. All right, now we'll move on to committee reports. Does anybody have any updates?
I think we
No? All right. Anything under item 12, information and discussion items that anyone would like to add?
I just want to echo what Mr. Imes said earlier in appreciation of the administrative team and putting all of this together, and our certainly our teaching staff and our support staff and all the students and parents that are involved in this. It's an extraordinary time that requires extraordinary courage and sacrifice, and certainly appreciate all of those folks in our district that are putting this together. So thank you for all your hard work, and we'll get through this together.
Thank you, Mr. McInnes. All right, anyone else? All right, we'll move on to board announcements. The next meetings that are scheduled pending, no changes, given the current state that we're in, these are of course up for being changed. Would be, the next one is April 6th, 2020, State of the Schools. That is scheduled to take place at Harrison Elementary at 6 p.m. And then the next regular school board meeting is April 20th, to be held at Grant Middle School at 6 p.m. Next, is there a need to go into executive session? Nope. All right. To adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for joining us. Oh, a motion,
I'll make
please.
a
I think
motion
Mr.
to adjourn.
McInnes did, and then I seconded it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
And then a
sorry,
roll call.
did not hear it, I'm sorry.
Roll call.
So how about Mr. McInnes?
Yes.
Mr. Imes?
Yes.
Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. McCreary?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
That's State of the Schools.
No, I mean, maybe not.